What is up, everybody? My name is James D. Fiore, and this is Blackballed. It has been a couple weeks since I have done a show, and I am so happy to return doing a show that speaks to my actual loins. And I mean that literally. It's Rapper Day on Blackballed. I was talking, and I'm not trying to name drop here, but it's relevant to what we are going to experience tonight. I was talking to the DOC on the phone about a week ago, and what we realized when I was speaking to him was that hip hop culture is so interesting that the parallels that you can draw from people who embrace the culture, whether they are in a ghetto in America or in a suburb in Canada, is that at the beginning, it was really difficult to digest hip hop music. For my personal experience, and I'm pretty sure my guests today will have similar experiences. I grew up in Whitby, Ontario, which is about, I guess, 40 minutes or so outside of Toronto, and there was no hip hop shows at all except for on Saturday afternoons when the Power Move show was on, for example. Which was a Ryerson University radio show hosted by Ron Nelson and then DJ X. And in order for me to consume hip hop music as like a 13, 14-year-old kid, I had to take my radio outside into my backyard, pull up the antenna the entire way, stick tinfoil on the antenna, and then finagle it until I finally got a signal that I could deal with in order to listen to hip hop music, because it just was not a staple among radio stations back in the day. And today, the guests on my show it's really interesting because a friend of mine is one of the MCs. He's not with us today. We have four members of a group that's known as the Magnificent Six. One of the reasons why I think this is such a cool concept that they've embarked on is multifaceted. One reason is because if you are a hip hop historian, like I like to pride myself as being, back in the day, even before I started listening to hip hop music, there was a certain vibe that sort of started to establish the culture. And it was these groups that used to battle each other in like the Bronx and in Brooklyn. And they were known as the Treacherous Three and the Furious Five and things like that. And they were crews. And they would be in an ensemble of hip hop MCs and dancers and a DJ. And they would basically rock parties. And they would, intrigue hip hop fans and provided kind of the underpinnings of what would eventually become an established and cemented vibe among crews and that made up hip hop culture. And this, I feel, and I could be wrong about this, but I'll ask the gentleman when I bring him on. I feel like the Magnificent Six, which is an ensemble of six MCs and a producer, where I think that they are kind of both a throwback to when hip hop culture was just becoming established, and also a sort of bridge to the modern idea of what hip hop has become, because their lyrics are dope and they are all really, really awesome MCs. So if you would please welcome to the show, and I'm going to try to get all these names right because there's so many of them. Please welcome Illtone, Shark, and Age to the show. Gentlemen, we're trying to get Skits on, but he lives in a basement and we don't know if his if his technology is going to work. But welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you for having us.
No problem at all.
Thanks.
I'm really kind of proud of you guys as a Canadian hip hop connoisseur and a consumer of hip hop music because of what I just mentioned. You guys seem to be almost like a tribute to hip hop culture itself, but also kind of wanting modern listeners of hip hop to sort of understand that lyricism is still an important facet of hip hop music. Shark, I'm going to start with you. Am I off base on that? Am I over romanticizing what I feel like you guys are trying to accomplish, or is that a fair statement based on what I've heard so far from you guys?
I think it's fair. I think it's kind of interesting it's been very organic. Um, we came together as skits kind of, I think, hit us up individually to do a song, um, and from there it turned out the first song turned out so well that we're like, you know what, why don't we take this a little bit more seriously? And we're all kind of established in our own careers, both musically and outside of music, and we all have very different backgrounds. And I think what we've found as our style is this combination of dope lyricism, but party rocket stuff. It's fun, it's lighthearted, but you're still going to catch some really dope bars in there. Darren and Skits do a lot of the hooks. Mr. D from the Salads and Skits, aka Iverson Black. I mean, both of them are phenomenal lyricists and singers and musicians. So there's a real musicality, I think, to what we're coming out with that I think is missing from a lot of lyrical hip hop.
And Iltone, did you guys know each other before you embarked on this project, or are you? Is there a few of you that were introduced to each other after Skits decided to sort of put this cast of MCs together?
Sharky and I knew each other, age, and I knew Skits. The only ones I didn't know was Nigel, and Mr. D. So I kind of, we got acquainted with them, me personally, when we did our first song together, Move the Crowd. And that's how we connected. But I knew Age, I knew Shark, and I knew Skits back then, doing shows in Toronto and the Tri City area.
And you're the lone American in the bunch, is that right?
Yes, I am the solo Americano. I am the solo American in our all
I like
star
your room,
cast
Age.
of Canadians.
When
So
they go to your house, are they
they got
like,
me
"What's with
drinking,
all the guns, Iltone?" You
they
know,
got me
like,
drinking the Back Blue and saying A all the time.
yeah.
It's contagious. I love it.
Age, where are you from?
Originally, was born in Mississauga. I lived up north for most of my life, north of Barrie,
Okay.
and then in my 20s, I moved to Pickering, and then now I'm in Ajax. But I met Shark, and I've known Iltone for some time back in London days when I went to school for music engineering and production, and yeah, I've known those guys for a long time. And Skit's the same. Skit's only met a couple of times when I was in my 20s, which is a long time ago, and then we kind of got reacquainted a few years back.
So what is it that you guys and I guess I'll point this to Shark. What are you guys hoping to convey as far as your music goes? Like, listen, I have a as Ed Igel has told me many times. My backpack is on really tight. I'm a very like hardcore purist when it comes to the culture. I'm about the lyrics and the culture as much as I possibly can as a guest in this shit. But what is the message or the brand or whatever the point that you guys are trying to make with the Magnificent Six? What is it that you want to convey to listeners?
I think what we want to convey is, kind of, you talk about hip hop's 50th. It's that hip hop is entertaining, that it's fun, that there's more to it than kind of how tough and how bad you are. You know, I'm a backpacker myself, so if you listen to my solo stuff, it's a lot more kind of traditional East Coast boom bap lyrical stuff. But with the Magnificent Six, we're just having a lot of fun making fun music, and it's I think that enjoyment that we're all having throughout this creative process, I think shows through in the music that we're making.
Okay, I just want to give an update. Skits is still trying to join us, but he's stuck in his basement and he can't figure out a way to get a workable internet connection. Um, Age, let me ask you this: Are you are you planning on doing live shows with the Magnificent Six, or is it strictly a digital product right now?
No, I mean we discussed over the many chats that we've been having to do some shows, also to put out some vinyl, that's some physical because again we are old and older, and so we had appreciate. I'm a big vinyl head too. I love vinyl. I love physical media. So I think that for us, would make a lot of sense to do those live shows, present those physical medias to folks to purchase.
And Iltone, what is it? Actually, this is what I want to ask you. As the lone American in the crew, what is the main difference? Do you think, if any, is there a big difference between American audiences and Canadian audiences when it comes to the style that the Magnificent Six is trying to portray?
That's a great question. When I play in London or when I play in Ontario, anywhere in Canada, I believe that the fans are more open to hip hop. They're more heads. It's like they approach it like it's still new. Here, it's like they get used to you. They're used to hip hop. They're not so much. I guess they're not as much of a head. They are, but they aren't. But it seems like the welcoming is better in Ontario. You know.
That's actually interesting because I'm sure Shark and Age has any of you explained to Iltone what Screwface Capital means? One of you go ahead if you haven't yet.
Toronto's its own beast. Toronto's its own beast.
Yeah, Toronto is one of those places, and I've seen it as a person in the crowd and as a performer. I used to do shows back in the early 2000s or whatever as a rapper, but there was even if there was like a really dope lyricist on stage, you get a lot of this. Right, just like, and I couldn't tell back in the day, and I still don't really know. It's kind of a mystery to me. Maybe Shark or Age, you can kind of chime in on this. It felt like we were kind of hip hop, not purists, but snobs up in Toronto. You really literally needed to like move the earth in order to get a reaction out of crowds. If you were somebody who wasn't a household name, did you guys have that same experience, kind of up and coming when you were starting out?
There's definitely a bar
Yeah.
in Toronto, and if you don't get above that bar, wherever the crowd has set it, it's always interesting as a performer because you're trying to work in crowd participation. And whenever I do a show in Toronto, it's like I don't want to put in too much call and response because there might be crickets.
Yeah,
depending on how the vibe is going.
that's right.
So I don't want too much of that in my set, just in case it's not my best performance.
That's right.
Uh, but yeah, Toronto is definitely its own vibe.
Age?
It really is. But
Yeah.
it's one of the most talented hip hop cities on the
Oh, for
planet,
sure.
in my opinion, too. So they've got a right to be snobs.
Yeah, and I remember way back when, I don't know if you remember the group, again, Canadian classics, but Plains of Fascination, Mishimi, they actually set me up with a show when I was like 18 years old at Planet Mars, and getting it was the first time being in front of a crowd like that in the city of Toronto, and that was it was tough. It was really tough, right? So you got those dudes that wanted to throw shit at you, and then you had those guys that were really welcoming. So it was definitely it was tough, and I think it still is.
I'm going to see if I can get Skits in a second. So Skits, if you can hear me, I'm gonna patch you in a second. Did you guys see, or even if you didn't, the Play to Record documentary? Were you guys Play to Record people back in the day?
Yeah,
Can you talk about that a little bit? Because I had the director on recently, and it was such a dude. The movie was so amazing. I wasn't even a DJ. I had been to Play to Record maybe a couple dozen times in my life in the early 2000s and late 90s. And just watching that documentary, I was just like, this is fucking awesome. It just totally brought me back.
Yeah.
So do you guys have any memories of Play to Record, and did that play any role in your hip hop sort of life cycle?
Yeah, I remember.
For myself,
Go ahead, yeah.
not a lot because I grew up in KW. I was a Dr. Disc guy downtown Kitchener, so that was my record store.
Okay.
And so it was a smaller version, not quite as connected, but I still got the same joy of going in and looking for something new. And that was there was no Spotify to check out a track. You had to actually go make a purchase and put $15 on your hunch to see if it was worth buying. But I remember I still talk about it to this day, and I'll talk about it now. I remember reading the source, Unsigned Hype, when Wu-Tang was their artist of the month. And I was so fascinated by the concept of, they looked crazy with their the fronts and the masks
Yeah.
on. So I went to Dr. Disc and I ordered the white label demo for Protect Your Neck and Method Man. And I tell everybody, outside of maybe a few DJs in Toronto, I think I was probably the first guy in Canada that had that record, because it took 3 months to get it from New York. So it was but yeah, the joy of going to the record store and searching for something new and undiscovered, I don't think that ever really goes away.
Okay. Age?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was in close to Barrie, so I would travel to play the record probably every other weekends, where I bought my first. Well, I should say I didn't, but my parents did. Bought 1200s from there. Bought lots of vinyl, and again, from a kid from up north, coming to the city and to a place like that was it was like a kid in a candy store. So
Yeah.
I cherish it to this day. Absolutely, it was a fantastic doc, by the way.
Yeah, it was a dope dog. Iltone, did you have a place that was sort of the same thing, like where it was sort of like a central spot where DJs and just hip hop culture enthusiasts would go to buy vinyl back in the day?
Absolutely. As up here in Port Huron, it was full moon. It was full moon that the DJs would come up here, and we would all travel to downtown. Plus, a lot in Detroit, So yeah, Merry Melodies was a big spot, and you had a couple other ones I was trying to come to mind while everybody else was talking. But Detroit is a large vinyl collector because it's also the home of techno. So the DJs and the wax was prevalent out there as well.
Is it Carl Cox, the famous guy that's from Detroit? Frank?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, techno.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I threw raves back in the day, and I was kind of thrown into the scene. I randomly met this dude and became his roommate, and his existing roommate at the time, was like one of the biggest rave promoters in Toronto. And I was just like, my first experience in that scene was literally like going to parties that were featuring the world's top electronic music DJs. Like, I didn't have like baby steps towards it. I was thrown into the deep end, and it was dope. So I got to meet Tiesto and Armin van Buren and all these guys that I didn't even know who they were. And I was kind of given a crash course on that. But Carl Cox is one of them. I did ecstasy with Carl Cox one time. I
Nice,
just want to say,
nice.
yeah.
Yeah, no, the techno scene is crazy up here. It's insane.
It really is. Sketch is looking like he's still having. Here, I just want to put this on because I think it's funny. Hold on. I can't even put it on. It says no video feed. I don't know what to do with that. Okay, I'm gonna play your single that just came out today. It's called Stardust. I'm gonna play the whole track, and then I'll come back when it's over. Maybe Skits will get his shit together by the. It's always the guys that is It's always the producers that can't get their tech shit together. By the way, I just want to let you guys know that. But this is the Magnificent Six, and the track is called Stardust. Do you guys have anything? Is there any background to this track, or was it just like an ensemble track that you guys that Skits produced? I was told by Nigel that you guys all do your recordings independently, like from your own homes, and then kind of like patch it together. And I think the sound, I think that kind of creates a really neat compartmentalized sound that gels well together. Are you guys happy with the way that is, or would you guys prefer to be in the same studio together? Age?
For me, I prefer that we were all be in the same studio together, but life is it's not always that easy. So of course we're in different places around the world, and
Yeah.
so we all have some home studios and stuff. So we'll do it that way. But I would prefer, of course, if we did it all together. Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is Stardust by the Magnificent Six, and we'll see you on the flip side. 1 sec.
Together we can be. Together we can be. Can't stop, won't stop, we still fire. Won't stop rocking till I retire. With a click like this, six fellas so sick, make the people get up like, oh. Yeah, just like that. Lyrics by the plenty and the beats are fat. If you're feeling what we're dealing, put your hands in the air. Get up and rock it like you got it and you just
I got
don't
the
care.
vertebrae. I'm back fly as ever. I'll lead the conversation there like that guy was clever. Forever on that big old bull like a moose. size of jacket I wear, killed 1,000 goose. I was raised different, took the elevator while I floated. A mountain of a man, that's why I'm goaded. When you see the symbol, know the game is getting saved. I like to keep it simple while I'm racing through the maze.
Together we can be tied. So dangerous. Thanks for lending an ear. And you chose to be here. Together we can be tied. So dangerous. Thanks for lending an ear. And you chose to be here.
Next on the docket, age ready to rock it. Moonwalk, space talk, extraterrestrial cosmic. We're here, so steer clear. Bring that funk to your ears. Surround or all around, true sound that got 'em here. Let me volunteer my sentiments. It goes better when 6 men light 'em up like butane or adrenaline. No vitamin, the vitamin, and set 'em on their way. Hold up. So much more to say.
ILLTONE, so live and direct in the place to be. My own shadow gets props standing next to me, cause I put in seats like a major D. How fly we is, got a buzz over beats, top 6 language. Pop, this ain't it. The bus from the stardust off the shoulder gets brushed like flakes of dandruff.
Together we can be tied. So dangerous. Thanks for lending an ear. And you chose to be here. Together we can be tied. So dangerous. Thanks for lending an ear. And you chose to be here.
We Johnny United, Mag 6 behind the mic stand. All 6 MCs and mics in the hand. No stepping on toes. Respect all those with Niagara Fall flows. I spit cold lava till it froze. So happy that you chose to listen to these pros. Flows, vibes bumping through these bows. Speakers, Zekas, bugs, a box. Schooled from hard knocks, but always ready to rock, 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 rock.
Non-stop, making it hot, but so deep in the vibe, they gon' love it a lot. Mag 6 on your mind if you want it or not. Yeah, 6 of these guys and they calling us pops. Black done arrived and you already got. If getting got was the plot, then all of the props. Yeah, that make you the man, you already lost. So just state to the fans who the greatest, y'all.
Together we can be tied. So dangerous. Thanks for lending an ear. And you chose to be here. Together we can be tied. So dangerous. Thanks for lending an ear. And you chose to be here.
Oh yeah, you remember.
Oh, we lost James.
Oh, there he is.
Whoa.
You get out there, you just went like this.
What happened there? Where'd the track go?
It just
Did it,
Finished rapping.
it rapidly? Okay. I want to know. First of all, did the track just end now? Because I was listening to it outside. I walked in, and then you guys were sitting there.
It just ended.
Okay,
Yeah.
Just that.
I want to know if you guys are like old school purists that hate modern hip hop, or are you guys like? Because there's decidedly 2 camps. There's one camp that just can't stand anything new, mostly because the lyrics are not that great. And then there's the camp that's like, well, you got to give it to the new heads because we were the new heads once and we didn't like the old school stuff. Like, what are your guys' feelings on that kind of stuff? Anyone can go first. Just jump in.
Yeah. I mean, I seem to always talk first, so I'll go first again. I'm of the camp that I only have so much time in my life to listen to music. And if I'm going to listen, the reality is there is a ton of really dope lyrical hip hop artists out right now. Like a ton.
Give me a couple examples so that people know.
I mean, it depends what you're into. Other countries, like there's stuff coming out of the UK that would blow your mind. Let me just think. Who have I listened to lately? There's some cats out
Lee Scott and Village of the Damned.
Yeah,
Very dope.
Cult of the Damned, Jest, Dabla. There's a lot of crazy artists there, and there's Def C, Teddy Faley, and there's Billy Woods and Elucid from Arm and Hammer. There's just so much good hip hop right now and it's not that I won't listen to anything modern. There's some modern stuff. The JID, the JIT album, I liked. but he mixes it up. It's very musical and soulful at the same time. It's not just straight trap beats, and it's, I don't know, a lot of the pure trap stuff. It's a different genre, in my
I like
opinion. It's
listening
not.
to like I like it when people mix trap beats with old Rakim verses, for example. I actually
Yeah.
like that
Oh
shit.
yeah.
I think it's dope.
You can float really dope on a trap
Yeah.
beat.
You
A
don't
lot of
always
them
land on the
don't.
kick, which is really interesting. It's
No.
like you end
Yeah.
up
But you
landing
can
on the
float.
bass line loop or something like that, right?
Yeah, you can
But
float with it, which is
Mm.
fun sometimes. But
Age.
Yeah, for me, I listen. I appreciate all of it. I'm not. I don't listen to a lot of the new stuff, especially the trap stuff. I mean, I'll view it, but I don't really take it in. For me, I'm a huge West Coast fan, right? Heavily influenced by E40. A lot of the gangster rap. I was that typical white dude in the suburbs that listened to gangster rap. That was my thing, and I would just listen to it. Of course, I didn't live it, but I appreciated it, right? So,
Were you one of those guys that like fell asleep to Regulate on a loop?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, those headphones were bleeding off the ears, right? So,
Yeah.
but then Jedi Mind Tricks, Prof. There's so much great material that's out, and as Shark alluded to, it's tough to listen to all of it, but yeah, I appreciate all of it as much as I can.
It's really neat because and Iltone, I'll ask you the same question, but I just want to say that I interviewed Sage Francis, I guess like a month ago, and he sounds like you guys. Like there's such an appreciation among some of us old heads, I guess you would call us or whatever, about how their lives were transformed and their art itself, like the way that they approach the music themselves, were highly influenced by the lyrical content, and they became so what would you call it, like they wanted to remain so faithful to the lyrics that it made them sort of go in a different direction, but they were open enough to be able to at least be appreciative of the new shit. And listen, I'm one of those guys. I hate mumble rap. I don't like little Uzi, and I just don't like that shit. Right? Like it doesn't speak to me. Because even the hip hop that I didn't like back in the day, if I knew that the lyrics were dope, then I would just say, oh, it's not my cup of tea, but the lyrics are dope. But sometimes the lyrics aren't dope. Iltone, can you correct me on that, or tell me if I'm right about that?
no, I definitely feel you because at work I get a large dosage of new music, a lot of auto tune, a lot of trap, the concepts, what they're speaking on. The beats could be real dope. The beats could be real dope, but their subject matter, even and it's drugs and rock and roll, basically drugs and hip hop and females, which I can get down with it if it's written right.
Yeah.
It just seems very repetitive. I think it's honestly it's mediocre to me. It's not like you can be bad at rap. It's not terrible. It's mediocre, but people put it on a pedestal. I think it's because that's what the media is the only thing they're pushing.
Um, are you guys? Are you guys? Listen, I know it's like really in the infancy stage of your group, but are you guys? Is there any target dates for live shows? Like, what do you guys have going on? Skits, by the way, has like come in and out, but he's still in his basement and it's not working out, so it doesn't look like he's going to be joining us. But let's talk about Skits actually before I get into the live show stuff. It feels like he was the straw that stirred the drink in this ensemble cast of MCs. Can one of
Yeah.
you speak to how he was able to like bring you guys together, and how difficult it was or how easy it was? Maybe I'll go to you first, Shark.
Oh, yeah, I'll take it. I mean, I think I've known Skits the longest. I think they know him through me. Um, I've known Skits since I want to say grade 10 ish. My cousin Dan O'Bravo, is the one who actually got me into hip hop in the first place. He's Scarborough head, and I'd go down. I'd spend time down there, and that's where I met Skits. Him and Shug were buddies of my cousins, and they went to school together, and same school that a lot of the guys from Monolith went to. So we are hanging out with like Nish and Corey and all those guys. So it was, a really dope intro to hip hop for me. So that's where I met Skits and really fell in love with hip hop and, never gave it up. And so Ill Tone and Age were guys that I knew that kind of brought the friends together. And then Skits brought in Nigel and D, who were guys that I knew a little bit from Pocket Dwellers and the Salads, and they were friends of my cousin as well to an extent. So it was all kind of, I guess, Skits. Then he had connections through me, and then his connections, and it just, like I said, it ended up with one song for fun that turned out really dope. And we said, we were all in the group chat and we're like, we should do more. And so here we are. I think we got like 12 tracks now. We're working on about 18, it looks like, in the SoundCloud.
Just to pick up Skits for a second. So I grew up with Nigel. Nigel was the place. Nigel and Sheldon S. Love, rest in peace, S. Love, by the way, one of the dopest producers ever. I used to go to Nigel's mom's basement, where Skits apparently is right now because we can't get a signal. But I used to go to Nigel's mom's basement, and it was dope because it was like that was like sort of like the birthplace of like the artistry of hip hop for me was Nigel's mom's basement with him and Sheldon. Sheldon would put on a beat. He would never charge me, for the studio time or whatever. He'd let me leave with like a demo, like a rough take or whatever, and it was really dope. But one thing Nigel did tell me today, when I was preparing for this interview, was that Nigel was like a really skilled freestyler when we were growing up. He was like the guy in Whitby that and he often used to refer to Whitby as like the mecca of hip hop in a sarcastic way, right? But like, he was the guy that we all kind of considered to be a really dope battler and a really dope freestyler. And what he told me that I found really interesting today and kind of surprised me is that he was invited to, I guess it was Scarborough or somewhere in the city where he first met Skits. And he said that he was literally humbled by the skill level that Skits showed on the microphone as a freestyler. And coming from Nigel, that must mean something because, Nigel was so dope at the time and still is or whatever. But just the fact that he was able to give such homage to Skits was really dope. We have to replace Skits, who's still somewhere in the basement trying to find an internet connection. We have Mr. D.
We got
replace Skits, who's still
Wow, what a delay. Listen to that.
What's up, Dave?
Oh shit!
What's up, buddy?
Woo!
Yeah.
That's crazy.
How you doing? Darren, what's going on, buddy? How are you?
I'm good. What's going on, James? How are you, man?
I'm doing good, man. So listen, thank you for taking away that delay. I have no idea what that. It must have been the mic. Yeah.
I was watching you guys, and I forgot to turn that part off.
Oh, that's okay, buddy. Listen, I've been talking to your bandmates here. Give me your take on this whole thing. I led off this podcast by talking about how I'm of two minds of your band. One is that just being called the Magnificent Six harkens back to like the Furious Five, Treacherous Three, and like a homage to like the underpinnings of hip hop culture itself. But you have all these dope lyricists that sort of put a modern spin to it. Give me your kind of take on what this group means and what you're trying to give to the listeners.
Well, like the guy said, the group came together really organically. So that in itself just kind of makes it just everything that we're producing just sounds honest. And it's real, and it's coming, and we're all such different individuals. It's bringing a lot of different things to the table. I'm really excited about it all. It's so much fun, and I can't wait for all these tunes to just slowly be released. So, who's talking about Dave Zimba? Yeah.
Are you guys willing to or have you ever? And this is just a throwaway question. Have you ever, or are you willing to battle each other, or is it more like a cypher vibe if you all get together?
Anyway. I'm thinking it's a cypher vibe.
This is cypher vibe.
Make enemies all.
Tone and I have had some fun battles, friendly battles over the
Yeah,
years, but
yeah.
never. It's all
Still
just
sharpen steel
in
though.
the heat of the cipher.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. Maybe I should ask this. How many of you were actual battle rappers back in the day?
Not me.
Yeah,
Not me.
not formally. I did it before it was like an organized sport.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I ask you? Let me ask you this. And this is another one of those things where Nigel would tell me my backpack is on real tight, but I think he actually agrees with me on this. I don't know what happened, but it really pisses me off that the definition of the word freestyle went from off the dome, off the top of your head in the moment, to, oh, it's just a rhyme that no one's ever heard before. I find that second definition to be a completely bastardized version of what freestyle means. And can I just go around the horn, Iltone, starting with you? What is your definition of a true freestyle?
Freestyles off the top of the head. I don't know where the written rhyme came in at. Because I think even Curtis Blow said something about even a freestyle was written back then that nobody heard before. But to me, freestyles spontaneous off the top of the head right now, like improv, like you're doing an improv.
Yeah.
You do an improv series, they give them a topic, they got to act it out right there in the spot. It's same as freestyle.
Yeah, I think to me, I mean, I know there's some like, well-respected kind of legendary heads that will say, no, freestyle is just a verse that doesn't have a topic.
Can I just say, let me interject for a second. Respectfully
stage,
to those legendary heads, fuck you. Shark, go ahead.
Yeah, if I stand on the stage and say, I'm going to kick a freestyle, everybody in the crowd thinks I'm coming off the top.
Right.
That's the accepted definition. Nobody thinks, oh, he's just going to kick a random verse. They think I'm coming off the top, right? So
Age?
I think it was kind of popularized by guys that can't actually freestyle.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And wanted to put freestyle in their video and have people confused and thinking they were off the top.
Thank you. Go ahead, Age.
Yeah, let's be honest. Not everyone's going to be a super nat when it comes to freestyling, right? So I think that for entertainment purposes, this is why you come in, you have pre-writtens where you're going to battle each other, and it's all for entertainment at the end of the day. But I agree, freestyling only is off the top.
Darren?
Yep, 100%. The guy said it already. That's it. The freestyling is off the top of the head. You can't be doing writtens.
I would like to thank all four of you for the circle jerk because honestly, because seriously, there's nothing that pisses me off more than when I see a YouTube video and it's like, listen, I might interview these guys in the future, so I won't mention any names, but you'll see someone like post something like, check out this such and such freestyle. And it's like, that's a verse I heard off their album 2 albums ago. This is not a freestyle. And I don't understand why we can't just like come to listen. I respect the craft of freestyling so much. Like it is a ridiculously complex and talented gift that some people have to come up with shit off the top of their head, right off the dome, that to bastardize that definition by saying that you can like, if you drop a verse that no one's ever heard before, it's a freestyle. You know where that comes from? That comes from the MCs that were out of their depth, that had a written verse that no one ever heard before, that they thought they could get away with during the fucking party where everyone was supposedly freestyling, and they dropped it, and everyone was like really impressed. I think it's a fucking fraud. I think it's a scam. It's a con. Like where did it come from? This is why I'm such an old head. I don't understand. Like I need.
You're not alone. I got in an argument with a pretty popular battle rapper, Soulcon, on one of his freestyle videos. He put a video up and it said freestyle, and then I'm like, that's not a freestyle. He's like, well, yeah, we got into this semantics nonsense about what freestyling is. I'm like, everybody that clicks that link thinks you're coming off the top.
Yeah.
So we're using semantics to try to pull one over on people.
Listen, I won a couple freestyle battles on the 88.1 show, the Power Move show. I beat Black Cat and some other person, and I had a prime of my freestyle career that started and ended when I was like 17, 18, because I didn't do it every day. And I knew that if you didn't flex that muscle, that you weren't going to be that good. And so I never, ever claimed that. Like, I like ciphering. I like dropping verses that people are like, wow, those are dope lyrics. But I would never try to fucking front like it was a freestyle. Like that's sacred shit. Like you can't fuck around with the sacred freestyle. Like,
Yeah.
why am I so passionate about this?
Yeah. I'm the same. If I'm in a cipher and I don't feel like freestyling, I'll say before I start, I'm going to kick a
Right.
verse. I throw the disclaimer out there so there's no confusion. I'm not trying to pull one over.
My favorite game used to be calling out rappers, where I would be like, that pattern that you just used, that rhyme scheme, I can tell that's not a freestyle because your eyes weren't darting looking for the words or anything. Like, fuck you. Like that. Like, I used to get so angry at these people. You know, like you got to we have to keep that's part of the culture. That's like an underpinning of the culture itself that you got to keep pure. And tell me if I'm acting a little psycho about this, guys. But like,
keep them in chat, bro.
Respect the passion.
Listen, the Magnificent Six. I am so listen. I am gonna keep an eye out for you guys. Nigel's gonna keep me apprised of all the shit that you guys do. I am super proud of you guys. I'm happy that this type of shit is happening in Canada because I think it's good for the culture. And I want to really thank you for your time, and I appreciate you coming on Blackballed tonight. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks for
Our
having us,
pleasure.
man.
Our
Awesome.
pleasure,
Thanks.
James.
All right,
Thanks for having us.
we'll talk soon, buddy.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, Magnificent Six. Listen, I really want you guys to make sure that you tune into Blackballed. I am going to make sure that I keep you apprised of everything that the Magnificent Six does. I'm really proud of those guys. Again, you know, as a purist, I really appreciate it when people come at this game in a way that is emotionally and skillfully pure. It makes me feel like like there's a good counter to all the mumble rap bullshit that we see today. And I appreciate the guys for joining us. In about 12 minutes, Casual Friday is going to begin, and we'll see you then on Blackballed. Thanks, everybody.
Blackmore. 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 Black.